The Middle East is holding its breath after a new direct conflict between Israel and Iran. For 12 days, from June 13th to June 25th, the long-standing shadow war between the two countries broke out into the open. The world watched a cycle of attacks and counterattacks that threatened to drag the entire region into a devastating conflict. This latest crisis started not just with missiles, but with sharp public warnings. The Israeli government spokesperson took an unusual step and spoke directly to the Iranian foreign minister in Persian, sending a clear message that Israel's patience with terrorists who threaten us has run out. This wasn't the quiet, secret language of intelligence agencies. This was a public statement that the old rules no longer apply. The conflict moved from the shadows into the harsh light of day, marking a new and dangerous stage in their decades-long rivalry. Iran's response was equally defiant and swift, leaving little room for de-escalation. Officials in Tehran declared that they no longer felt bound by the previous nuclear agreement. They announced their intention to move forward with uranium enrichment, a program that Israel and its allies see as an existential threat. This war of words quickly turned into a war of weapons. The world soon learned of unprecedented joint attacks by Israel and the US that hit Iran's most sensitive nuclear sites in Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. Iran didn't hesitate to respond, launching a barrage of its own ballistic missiles and drones. One of these attacks hit the port city of Haifa, bringing the reality of the conflict directly to the homes of Israeli citizens and showing Iran's ability to reach deep into its enemy's territory. The direct military exchange marked a frightening escalation. For years, the conflict was fought through proxies, cyber attacks, and targeted assassinations. This time, it was violence between states, a red line that both sides had avoided crossing before. The attacks on Iran's nuclear program were especially significant. Before this, Iran's nuclear ambitions were a topic for tense diplomacy and international sanctions. Now they were a target for direct military action. The Iranian missile attack on Haifa, in turn, showed that Tehran's threats were not empty words. It was a clear signal that an attack on Iran would lead to a direct and painful response. A message meant not only for Tel Aviv, but also for Washington and other regional powers who might consider joining a coalition against Iran. The fighting stopped only when Qatar, a key regional mediator, managed to broker a fragile ceasefire. US President Trump announced the end of fighting on June 24th, bringing a temporary end to the immediate violence. However, the underlying tensions that sparked the conflict haven't disappeared, they've only grown stronger. The 12-day war fundamentally changed the strategic landscape. It showed that both Israel and Iran are willing to risk direct confrontation, a reality that makes future conflicts more likely and potentially more devastating. The ceasefire is a pause, not a solution. The region now waits to see if this pause will be used for diplomacy or just for preparing for the next round of fighting, which might be even more dangerous. While Iran's leaders project an image of strength on the world stage, their country is falling apart from the inside. The nation is struggling with a serious money problem that's really hurting everyday people. The numbers tell a sad story. In June 2025, the yearly price increase for important things like food and housing shot up to 34.5%. This means that the cost of basic needs is going up so fast that most families can't afford it. Every trip to the market is a new shock for Iranians, as the price of bread, meat, and vegetables keeps climbing. This isn't a new problem, but the recent conflict pushed an already weak economy to the edge, making daily survival a struggle for millions. The value of Iran's money, the rial, has dropped to a record low, adding to the money chaos. In the open market, the US dollar recently hit a new high of 88,120 tomans. That's 881,200 rials. A huge jump that happened in just 2 days. For regular Iranians, this isn't some abstract economic number. It's a disaster. It means their savings are disappearing, and the cost of every imported item, from medicine to electronics parts, is becoming impossibly expensive. This currency crash is a clear sign that people don't trust the government to manage the economy. It shows a deep fear among the public that things will only get worse, causing a desperate rush to change their life savings into a more stable currency like the dollar. The effects of this economic breakdown can be seen on the streets of cities all over Iran. From Shiraz to Kermanshah and Zahedan, there are widespread reports of basic food shortages. Fearing more price hikes and instability, people are hoarding goods wherever they can find them, a phenomenon called goods flight. This panic buying only makes the shortages worse, creating empty shelves and fueling a booming black market where essential goods are sold at sky-high prices. Life has become a daily grind of searching for food and medicine, a constant source of stress and worry for families already under huge pressure. The government's promises sound hollow when a parent can't find milk for their child. Faced with this deepening crisis, the Iranian government's response has been sadly lacking. Officials from Iran's central bank tried to downplay the currency's fall, calling it just a temporary market fluctuation. However, they haven't announced any real plans to stop the decline or control the rising prices. The government has offered vague promises of better control over the currency market and some credit for small businesses. But these are small gestures that don't deal with the size of the problem. For the Iranian people who live with this economic collapse every day, these promises offer little comfort. The gap between what the government says and the suffering of the people is growing wider every day. During times of national crisis, the Iranian government works hard to show a picture of strong unity to the outside world. A big part of this plan is to show the loyalty of its religious minorities. During the recent conflict with Israel, leaders of Iran's old Jewish community made public statements saying they fully supported and were loyal to the Iranian government. These statements, which were widely shown on state media, serve an important purpose for Tehran. They are meant to fight against accusations of anti-Jewish feelings and to show Iran as a country where all citizens, no matter their religion, stand together against foreign enemies. This carefully managed show of support is a classic trick used by the government to control the story. However, behind this picture of unity is a much harsher reality of government control. While they promote messages of togetherness, Iranian authorities have also put down any kind of internal disagreement. During the 12-day conflict, security forces arrested at least 700 people. The government accused these people of being paid by Israel, a serious charge often used to silence activists, reporters, and anyone who questions the official story. These many arrests send a chilling message to the people. Any opposition to the government's actions, especially during a conflict, will be treated as betrayal. This creates a feeling of fear where people are afraid to speak up, even when they are dealing with growing money problems and political uncertainty. The government's control goes deep into the news world. Official Iranian news outlets worked overtime to shape what people think. Their reports constantly focus on national unity and standing strong. Money-related protests and public unhappiness are completely ignored or played down as small problems. Instead, the media highlights stories of working together, focusing on the shared goal of protecting the country and supporting the Palestinian people. This story is meant to rally the people around the flag and turn attention away from the government's failures at home. By controlling the flow of information, the government tries to make sure its version of events is the only one most Iranians see and hear. This intense focus on national unity and outside threats also helps to strengthen the power of the ruling group. The recent conflict has weakened many of Iran's regional friends, including Hamas and Hezbollah, and helped lead to the fall of the Assad government in Syria, a key Iranian partner. Given these big setbacks, the government in Tehran is looking inward, demanding complete loyalty from its people. The public absence of the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, since the ceasefire was announced, has only added to the feeling of uncertainty. In this atmosphere of crisis, the government's tools of control propaganda, putting people down, and fake shows of unity are being used to the fullest to hold on to power. The world community reacted to the Israel-Iran crisis with a mix of alarm and careful self-interest. The United States, a key player in the conflict, kept up its policy of putting the most pressure on Tehran, while the joint attacks on Iran's nuclear sites showed a willingness to use military force. Washington's diplomatic stance remained complicated. President Trump announced that talks were coming soon, but he also suggested that a new nuclear deal might not be needed, saying that the military attacks had set Iran's program back by years. These mixed messages show a bigger uncertainty in U.S. policy, whether to go for renewed talks or to rely on military threats and penalties to control Iran's goals. Other world powers are watching the situation with growing worry, especially China. As the biggest buyer of Iranian oil, Beijing's main goal is regional stability to protect its very important economic interests. China has publicly asked for things to calm down and has spoken out against Israel's military actions, which fits with its long-standing foreign policy rules. However, experts say that Beijing's actual power to influence events on the ground is limited. While China has successfully helped with deals before, like getting Iran and Saudi Arabia to become friendly again in 2023, a direct conflict involving Israel and the US is a much harder problem. For now, China's role is expected to remain careful diplomacy, aiming to stop a bigger war that would threaten its energy supply. The recent conflict has really hurt Iran's nuclear program. Both Iranian officials and the International Atomic Energy Agency have confirmed serious damage to key sites. Estimates vary, with some U.S. intelligence suggesting a setback of months, while Israeli officials claim the program has been pushed back years. In a defiant move, the Iranian parliament voted to stop working with the International Atomic Energy Agency, a step that will make it very hard for the world to keep an eye on its nuclear activities. While Iran has not left the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, this move further isolates Tehran and deepens the world community's distrust in its intentions, making any future diplomatic solution very difficult. In the end, Iran is facing a huge set of challenges on many fronts. Around the world, it is more alone than ever, facing a strong group of rivals and a world community that is full of doubt. In the region, the weakening of its allies has lessened its power, but the most immediate threat might be from within. With a failing economy, widespread public unhappiness, and a government that responds with force instead of change, the long-term stability of the government is in question. The shaky ceasefire has stopped the rockets for now, but it hasn't solved the deep problems. Iran is at a critical crossroads, facing a future full of dangers, both from outside its borders and from within.